The story starts with a high school girl named Akira narrating that it was her first day of high school and that she desperately wanted to avoid a certain boy Wuxia, who was not only her childhood friend, but also someone everyone insisted on labeling as her brother. Determined to escape that identity, she took the building's rooftop route just to avoid crossing paths with him. Wuxia, meanwhile, was walking below, quietly observing her as she jumped between terraces with rehearsed confidence, recalling how since childhood he had always eaten with her, walked to school with her, and effortlessly earned everyone's admiration with his talent, while she remained invisible in the background as the girl known only as Wuxia's sister. Wuxia saw her leap from the rooftop but said nothing, simply walking ahead while she carefully trailed behind him so he wouldn't notice her. After all, the bus stop and school route were unfortunately the same for both of them. They needed to cross a supermarket and then climb down a wall, for which Akira had thoughtfully placed bricks earlier so she could rest her foot and drop down safely. But a group of mischievous boys suddenly snatched the bricks to use in their game and sprinted off. Left dangling from the ledge, Akira tried to keep her grip, but her hand slipped, and she nearly fell until Wuxia appeared just in time and caught her. When he wondered aloud if she had been avoiding him, she insisted she was simply practicing rock climbing, though Wuxia clearly recognized the lie. As she climbed down, she accidentally stepped on him, leaving him mildly offended and deeply embarrassed. But she quickly told him she wanted her own identity in high school and asked him to avoid her as well, so no one would link her to him. Wuxia agreed without complaint and walked ahead. On his way, his drunk and gambling father appeared, revealing why Wuxia's relationship with him was strained. Akira also spotted the boys who had stolen her bricks and snatched one back from the makeshift goalpost they had created, then took the brick with her to catch the bus. Everyone stared at her strangely, including Wuxia, who suggested she throw it out. But because the bus was moving, she stuffed it into her bag. She pulled out her camera and casually commented that Wuxia is so handsome, promising to take some good photos of him since this was her rare chance. Wuxia silently questioned why her hobbies expanded every time he blinked. When a seat opened beside her, she invited him to sit, and after a moment, she drifted to sleep. Wuxia gently shifted her head toward the window, but she slept with such chaotic expressions that he couldn't resist snapping a photo, and to prevent her from waking up too abruptly, he settled her head on his shoulder. They reached school, and Akira told him to wait 30 seconds before entering and pretend not to know her. She then walked away boldly, unaware that Wuxia had stuck the embarrassing photo onto the back of her uniform as a good luck charm. In class, everyone laughed at the picture, especially a boy named Gogo, who teased her. Furious, she slammed the photo onto the desk so hard that she tore the notebook of her deskmate, Mary, prompting a quick apology before she sat down. When she pulled the brick from her bag, her classmates stepped back nervously, assuming she was about to attack someone, and Gogo hurried to apologize, saying he had only been joking. Soon, all students were called to the auditorium to welcome the school's top prodigy Wuxia, who gave an impressive speech and even delivered a Naruto motivational line that Akira had once taught him, filling the hall with excitement. Akira proudly whispered that she had taught him that line, but when others overheard and asked how she knew him, she scrambled to hide the connection, eventually twisting her words to say he was simply a senior from a nearby class. Unfortunately, everyone's admiration shifted back to Wuxia, leaving Akira overshadowed again. Later, trying to motivate herself, she covered her desk with inspirational quotes but fell asleep anyway. During break, she entered the empty auditorium to practice giving a speech and promised herself she would stop sleeping in class and focus seriously on her studies. Excited, she went to fetch her camera to record her progress, but she tripped on a wire backstage, damaging part of the stage setup. Panicking, she grabbed her camera and ran, hiding inside the broadcasting room. The security guard found her camera and thought it had been left behind in the auditorium, handing it to Wuxia, who came to return it. Wuxia glanced into the broadcasting room and saw Akira trapped behind the now jammed door. While she desperately gestured for him to open it, he amused himself by taking pictures of her panic-stricken face because apparently teasing her was his love language. Then a teacher arrived and demanded to know what they were doing. Before he could say anything, both quickly declared that they were not dating and did not even know each other. Akira, frustrated, explained indirectly that all her life whenever she achieved something, people credited Wuxia by calling her his sister, and whenever she made a mistake, she was scolded with the same statement, so she desperately wanted to avoid that identity here in high school. She signaled Wuxia to repeat the line, and he complied, but when the teacher checked their records and saw they shared the same address, he assumed they were siblings and punished Akira with 7 days of cleaning the school toilets for damaging the stage. As they walked out, she blamed Wuxia again for ruining her day and asked him to move aside. But as she stepped forward, she instantly tripped and fell. At this point, she sincerely believed he was her living, breathing, bad luck charm. Wuxia helped her tie her shoelaces, but another girl, Mary, witnessed it and later approached Akira on the road, asking where she lived, which bus she took, and what exactly her relationship with Wuxia was because she had seen them together. Akira panicked and begged her not to tell anyone, saying she wanted to build her own identity and didn't want anyone in their neighborhood finding out. Mary agreed to keep the secret, but pressed again, so Akira finally explained that they were childhood neighbors, that their families were complicated, and that she simply didn't want to live in Wuxia's shadow anymore. Mary said that being associated with him would make her popular, but Akira firmly insisted she wanted to be known by her own name. Continuing their conversation, the two girls walked to their home. Meanwhile, Wuxia's father, a habitual gambler who was embroiled in a dispute because some local thugs refused to pay him back. Being impulsive and rough-tempered, he resorted to beating them until he retrieved his money. Wuxia happened to be passing by and overheard the commotion, which reminded him why he never called this man father throughout his childhood. Their relationship had always been strained and cold. The thugs, however, noticed Wuxia receiving money from him and quickly concluded that Wuxia must be related to the old man, so they decided to take revenge on him instead. They cornered Wuxia and attacked him brutally, during which he instinctively protected his artificial leg, his weakness, and the reminder of the accident that changed his life. At that very moment, Akira approached the street, saw the assault, and grabbed a wooden plank to save him. But the thugs easily overpowered her as well. Seeing her hurt ignited a fierce rage in Wuxia, even though he was barely standing. Akira was almost struck in the head with a helmet when she shielded him and blocked it, but a mysterious boy suddenly appeared and chased the thugs away. Akira broke down crying, apologizing repeatedly, insisting everything was her fault and that she should never have left him alone. Wuxia tried to comfort her and, before heading back home, took her to his place so they could clean their wounds and change their clothes. After treating their injuries, he asked her not to tell either of their families about the incident and said he would avoid her house for a few days. He asked her to reassure his parents by saying he was in a bad mood, so they wouldn't worry. Akira, shaken by how close he had come to serious harm, blamed herself endlessly, thinking that if she hadn't tried to avoid him, none of this would have happened. She declared she would no longer leave him alone and insisted they go to and return from school together every day. When Wuxia asked if it bothered her, she simply said he mattered more than other people's opinions. They shared a faint smile, and the narrative shifted into a flashback 8 years earlier when Wuxia had been brought to the hospital after a car accident. Akira's parents had rescued him and rushed him there, and Wuxia's father had appeared shortly after, drunk at that time as well. The doctors explained that Wuxia's leg had to be amputated, which enraged the father, who nearly attacked the driver responsible for the accident. Akira's mother assured them that their family would take full responsibility, signed the consent forms, and watched as Wuxia was taken away for surgery. Wuxia's father later stormed in, devastated, accusing the father of ruining his son's life. The father swore to take responsibility, but Wuxia's father threatened to kill him and his entire family if he failed to protect Wuxia. He declared that from that day onward, they would treat Wuxia as part of Akira's family. The next morning, Akira's parents brought her to meet Wuxia, who was welcomed warmly, and they officially introduced him as her brother. Meanwhile, at present, Akira's father had secretly purchased an artificial leg in advance, so when they arrived at Wuxia's room, it was already set beside the bed. Wuxia thanked him for everything, and Akira's father, Lee, reminded him to always inform them if anything went wrong. Akira soon arrived, and the two headed off to school together. At the bus stop, Wuxia wrote in his diary about repaying the immense debts he felt he owed their family for the artificial leg and everything else they had provided. proving just how proud and self-reliant he truly was. Meanwhile, in Akira's class group chat, students were gossiping about the previous night's fight, assuming Akira and Wuxia were siblings, even though their surnames were different. Rumors spun wildly, stories about family feuds, secret marriages, and melodramatic betrayals that would have made even daily soap operas blush. Akira overheard one absurd rumor and snapped at the girl spreading it, telling her that if their families were enemies, no one had bothered informing her. She warned them that the next time someone fabricated nonsense, they would regret it. She then stormed into class, where girls who admired Wuxia showered her with gifts and begged her to deliver love letters to him. Mary, irritated by the chaos, chased everyone away, earning Akira's gratitude. During committee selection, Mary was chosen as study representative, thanks partly to Akira voting for her, but the overwhelming responsibilities left her feeling guilty for unintentionally adding more pressure to her life. Hence, she was very angry at Akira. Later, during break, she told Wuxia everything that happened with Mary, when she overheard a group of boys calling Wuxia weak, lame, and a coward who hid behind girls. Furious, she was ready to fight them, but Wuxia stopped her, reminding her she could get expelled for violence. During break, Akira shared her thoughts with Mary that she is capable of becoming the representative of the school. They both exchange numbers, and when they come to class, Mary shows Akira her Mr. Perfect list, where she has given scores to many boys. According to that list, she ranks them, and whoever ends up at the top by the end of the school year, she will date him. When Akira asks who is currently in first place, Mary takes Wuxia's name, leaving Akira surprised for a moment. After school, Akira and Wuxia go home, and later at night, while they are studying, Akira starts teasing Wuxia about his love letter. But suddenly, she notices another letter in which someone had made fun of Wuxia's feet. Akira quickly hides it from him and goes back to her home, but as soon as she reaches there, Wuxia's father starts yelling at him. The next day at school, two students again start making fun of Wuxia, so Akira threatens them and even warns that she'll beat them up. But Mary stops her and pulls her away, and she explained everything to Akira, that she had researched the boys, they were cowards, and suggested a less violent but far more entertaining revenge plan. The boys later walked down the hall discussing an exam cheating scheme, unaware that Wuxia overheard them. After class, they found mysterious notes instructing them to go to the biology lab, believing a girl wanted to meet them. They arrived at the lab nervously, unaware that Akira and Mary were waiting inside with a perfectly crafted scare setup to teach them a lesson they would never forget. They reached the biology lab, but soon the lights suddenly switched off and the doors slammed shut. The two boys froze, only to watch in sheer terror as a dancing skeleton popped out from the darkness. Completely shaken, they backed into a corner while Akira stepped out, threatening them sharply that if they ever insulted Wuxia again or tried to bother him, the consequences next time would be much worse, and that she wouldn't hesitate to file a complaint with the teacher. To make her point clear, she twisted one boy's wrist, leaned in close, and warned, "If you're scared now, imagine what will happen next time." Horrified, the two boys fled silently. But later, the same boys hid in the library, plotting revenge on Akira, unaware that Wuxia was standing right behind them, listening to every word. He approached them calmly and warned that if they even tried anything, he would expose their cheating in exams to the school and to their parents, because he had a full recording of their conversation. To make them erase the recording, Wuxia ordered them to solve 20 question papers overnight. The next afternoon, while Akira and Wuxia walked home, she proudly explained how she had scared those two boys straight. Wuxia, however, was worried rather than impressed. He scolded her lightly, telling her not to take such risks again. Akira pushed back, saying, "They were bad-mouthing you. How could I stay quiet?" Wuxia replied softly, "I know what people say about me. Crippled, limping, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's true anyway." That made Akira furious. "You were never like this. Don't you remember? When we were kids, that girl threw chalk at you and you threw it right back. No one dared bully you again after that. You're not weak or cowardly. Your leg has nothing to do with your talent." Wuxia exhaled and said, "Back then, I was a kid. Now I know who I really am. So no, it doesn't bother me anymore." Angry and hurt by his self-deprecation, Akira walked off. Wuxia chased after her, but she continued ignoring him until he started deliberately stepping on her shadow. Akira finally snapped, "Stop stepping on my shadow. My height won't grow." Wuxia immediately changed the topic, inviting her to eat her favorite spicy hot pot. At the mention of food, Akira softened and made him promise that he would never insult himself like that again. The next day, they stopped at a comic shop where Akira was eagerly looking for the latest Naruto and One Piece editions, only to discover that the same irritating boy, Arrogance Punk, had bought every copy again. Akira was ready to explode, but Wuxia calmed her and took her home. At home, Akira's mom had cooked dinner for everyone, which none of the three actually liked, but no one dared refuse her cooking. Akira secretly nominated Wuxia as the sacrificial goat, so he was forced to eat first. He swallowed every bite with a smile, claiming it was delicious, and even fed some to Uncle, who also pretended to enjoy it. Everyone praised the food until Wuxia casually announced that he'd be leaving tomorrow for a study campaign in another city and wouldn't be home for a while. But instead of relief, the news backfired because Mom immediately insisted, "Then eat more today." Later, Akira and Wuxia went to feed the family rooster that she named Song. Akira relied on Song to make big decisions for her, so to decide which subject she should focus on to improve her grades, she tossed paper chits labeled with subject names into his coop. Song pecked one, math. Akira grabbed her head in despair since math was her weakest subject. Wuxia encouraged her gently, saying she should start with the hardest subject, especially since he wouldn't be home for a few days. Wanting to support him too, Akira created prediction slips for Wuxia, placing them in the rooster's box. Song pecked one reading, "Your rival will soon appear." Wuxia didn't take it seriously, but Akira crafted a handmade lucky charm for him and wished him good luck for his exam. Back in class, a new student entered with a flashy Naruto-style hand sign. It was Lanzan, someone Gogo already knew. He sat beside Gogo but couldn't stop glancing at Akira. When Gogo teased him about being interested in her, Lanzan quickly denied it, but admitted he had been looking at her. When they were young, Wuxia was teased by a boy who threw candy at him. Akira confidently threw it back and made him apologize. Back to the present, Akira was reading comics, and Lanzan was still watching her reveal the climax, making her angry. When he asked if she still didn't recognize him, she said no, until he covered half his face with his palm. Suddenly, she remembered he was the strange, mysterious kid who had saved Wuxia and her from those goons. When she asked why his hair wasn't long like before, he said he cut it to fit the school rules. In club recruitment week, Lanzan applied for the basketball team, claiming he'd make history, but despite performing well, he wasn't selected. Akira was stunned. Meanwhile, Wuxia attended his elite special classes, where students whispered about him being the legendary boy who dominated math and physics competitions. Even the past chemistry champion, Soa, looked stunned seeing him there. On the other hand, Akira still struggled badly in her maths class. The teacher called her to the board to solve a question, but she couldn't. The bell saved her. She then realized Lanzan was missing. Gogo explained that because he wasn't selected for the basketball team, he had skipped class, and that was dangerous, since Lanzan, being the principal's son, never gave up easily and might cause trouble for the whole school. Lanzan marched straight to the captain of the school basketball team, demanding to know why he hadn't been selected. The captain didn't give him a real answer, but Lanzan easily saw through it. This had his father's fingerprints all over it. Meanwhile, in the study camp, ever since Soa had heard rumors about Wuxia, he'd become obsessed with challenging him academically. So he walked up to Wuxia, introduced himself, and declared a chemistry competition. But Wuxia was quietly polishing the lucky charm Akira had made for him, paying no attention to Sohwa's dramatic challenge. Akira returned home hiding something behind her back, the comic books. But her mother saw her and scolded him furiously because during today's match class, the teacher had warned her for sleeping in the class and for being unable to answer even a simple math question. Her mother then declared a crackdown. The comics must be returned to the shop, and from tonight, no TV, no phone, only study. Akira sulked her way to her room and immediately called Wuxia to complain, updating him about Lanzan, the accident, and everything that had happened. She was amused and told him that Song had predicted his rival right. Akira told him to keep the lucky charm with him at all times. She also asked when he was returning because Mom has become a villain without you. She even confiscated all my comics. Wuxia told her she deserved it and asked whether she had solved the question papers he gave her. Akira made a hasty excuse and hung up. The next day, all the 10th graders were summoned to the auditorium. Lanzan walked in with full attitude, prompting the principal to drag him on stage and order him to remove his hoodie. When he did, the entire hall gasped. His hair was now dyed bright red. The principal, who was also his father, exploded. Lanzan casually replied, "I used your money to dye it, but of course that didn't help." The principal immediately announced his suspension until he returned to a proper hairstyle. Afterwards, Akira went to the comic shop to return her beloved stories. Lanzan happened to be there and noticed how upset she looked. When she angrily counted all the comics she was forced to return, he pointed out that her favorites were also his. Akira discovered that he was the arrogance punk who always bought the comics before her, and yes, for absolutely no reason, it annoyed her even more. Seeing her mood dip, Lanzan dragged her to the basketball court, saying it's where all worries disappear. He convinced her to try a basket. Akira panicked, claiming she was too short, so Lanzan stood under the hoop and told her to run and jump off his Wuxiads. Akira sprinted, he lifted her, and she made the shot. She clung to the basket afterwards, terrified to jump down. Lanzan climbed up beside her and said, "Don't worry, nothing will happen. Just shout and let the frustration out." Akira yelled, "I hate math!" Then they sat down, and she asked if he really loved basketball. He nodded that he had played since childhood. Akira suggested he didn't need the school team. He could make his own club. Lanzan laughed. Dad would never approve. Akira said, "Then write the application under my name." Lanzan looked at her like she was a magical loophole and happily agreed. At night, Akira worked on her math homework while talking to Wuxia on the phone. She updated him on Lanzan's hair-dyeing disaster and every little thing that happened in school. Wuxia didn't love the idea of her talking extensively about another boy, and Akira suddenly remembered Song's prediction about a rival. Wuxia finished tutoring her, and the next morning the teacher praised Akira's neat homework. But at school, Lanzan was waiting for them. Akira and Mary rushed in, panicked. Their club application had disappeared. They suspected sabotage. Lanzan stormed into the principal's office, overhearing his father lecturing him again about academics and forbidding basketball. Lanzan snapped, "Fine, I'll quit this school and reapply for a sports quota. Let's see how you stop me." Hearing the argument, Akira and Mary entered and demanded the reason their club was rejected. The principal explained the school didn't need a second basketball team. Akira blurted out, "At least give us a chance to prove our ability." The principal finally agreed that if their club defeats the official school team, it will be approved. If not, they focus only on academics. Lanzan and Akira accepted confidently and then realized they didn't even have a proper team. Meanwhile, the school team was ridiculously strong, but Akira and Lanzan refused to give up. They began planning and searching for members. Akira shared everything with Wuxia and said they were missing 3 players, with only 3 days left. Wuxia reassured her, "Don't worry, something magical might happen tomorrow." And surprisingly, it did. The next morning, some players joined them. 2 were the same boys who had insulted Wuxia earlier. They joined because Wuxia promised to delete the cheating recording. A 3rd player also volunteered. Lanzan began training all of them enthusiastically. Mary made team jerseys. Akira was so touched she went home and painted their team logo. Meanwhile, Sowa stole Wuxia's lucky keychain and challenged him that he would return this to him only when Wuxian would beat him in the chemistry quiz. Wuxia was called upon hearing this, and soon the competition started. Sowa rushed to solve the question first, but Wuxia calmly started writing later because apparently he liked to give his opponents a head start for emotional comfort. Although Wuxia began solving the chemistry questions nearly a full minute after Sowa, he completed the process with perfect precision while Sowa filled the entire board with scribbles. Sowa admitted defeat and respectfully returned Wuxia's lucky charm. At that exact moment, Akira sent Wuxia a picture of Lanzan, and one glance at it was enough to spark irritation across Wuxia's face. Meanwhile, it was also the long-awaited day of the basketball competition. The match began and Lanzan's team performed impressively at first, but in the final moments, they fell short by just 2 points and ultimately lost to the school team. The principal left the court immediately, and Akira tried to approach him. He acknowledged their efforts, genuinely complimenting their performance. but said that by the official rules, a loss was still a loss, and therefore he could not approve their basketball club. Akira walked away dejected, only for Wuxia to suddenly appear because his study camp had ended earlier than expected. She lit up the moment she saw him. He asked about the match results and teased her lightly when she admitted the loss. Soon after, Wuxia suggested they go for lunch together, but seeing Lanzan in the distance reminded him that the boy was still recovering and hadn't eaten either, so the three of them decided to go together. During lunch, Lanzan dramatically coughed on a single chili as if auditioning for a medical emergency scene. Meanwhile, Wuxia ate the same sauce with absolute serenity, insisting it tasted wonderful. After school, the two headed home, where Akira asked about Wuxia's competitive match with Sohwa. Wuxia said he had defeated him, and Akira immediately credited her lucky charm and song the fortune teller Rooster for giving him victory. When Wuxia asked whether she had finished the homework he assigned, Akira ran off toward her house as if chased by wild animals. The next day, their exams began. Lanzan handed Akira a small Conan sticker, saying it would bring her luck. Since both were comic lovers, she happily placed it inside her pencil box before entering the exam hall. Meanwhile, Soa transferred into Wuxia's school because he still wanted to compete with him academically. He told Wuxia he wouldn't let him win this time. After the test, the results arrived. Akira tried to tease Lanzan, but he flipped the joke on her, pointing out that she had failed 2 subjects only for her to discover that Lanzan had passed just 2 subjects himself, which gave her plenty of material to mock him with. Everyone then realized something shocking. This time, Wuxia wasn't in first place. Sohwa hurried off to analyze the results and eventually found Wuxia helping clean the classroom. Sohwa reminded him of his promise that he alone would win, but Wuxia simply instructed him to sweep the hallway next. Meanwhile, Mary had analyzed Sohwa's performance in her diary and concluded that he had risen dramatically to rank 1. Akira was stunned at how fast she can change her preference, but Mary explained that Sohwa had already beaten Wuxia the moment he transferred, and she had also learned he was a multiple-time national chemistry contest winner. Akira boldly declared that in the next exam, she would make sure Wuxia reclaimed the top spot, openly supporting Sohwa as a rival in the meantime. Soon, a chemistry tryout was announced, and only one student from their school could participate. The teacher initially nominated Wuxia for physics since he was the strongest there, but Wuxia requested a chance in chemistry too, so both he and Sohwa were told to prepare. In the chemistry lab, Sohwa questioned Wuxia's choice, saying that if Wuxia had chosen physics and he had chosen chemistry, both of them could have been first simultaneously, but Wuxia focused quietly on his experiment and simply told Showa to shut the door on his way out. Akira later confronted Wuxia, asking why he withdrew from physics when he could have easily excelled. She suspected he wanted to defeat Sohwa directly, even though Sohwa was a national topper. She assured Wuxia she had full confidence in him and insisted she wasn't trying to lecture him. She simply claimed her psychological thinking was a little sharper and she could anticipate these dynamics earlier. Wuxia gently tapped her head and told her not to worry. Yet Akira was deeply anxious about his upcoming exam. She even wrote condensed notes from various chemistry experiments online, despite her mother telling her to focus on her own studies first, because Wuxia was brilliant enough not to need them. Akira stubbornly kept writing, determined to help. Meanwhile, Wuxia's father again asked for money from Lee, and when he refused, Wuxia's father started making a loud fuss as usual, so Lee quickly paid him off. On the other hand, Akira personally delivered the chemistry notes to Wuxia, who smiled appreciatively. The next day, he even brought them to class. Seeing this, Sohwa mocked him, saying that if Wuxia studied from those notes, he wouldn't pass, and Sohwa preferred strong competitors and even provided Wuxia his own notes. In the ground, Akira sat tensely as students whispered that Sohwa would defeat Wuxia again, but Lanzan reassured her that he supported Wuxia and believed he would win. Akira then said she will support Sohwa, and Wuxia overheard her. She tried to explain the reason to him, but Wuxia told her to focus on her studies and leave. Akira mutters to Lanzan that Wuxia misunderstood her support because everyone has ever lost when he supported them. That's why she wasted to support Sohwa so that he will lose. Lanzan comforted her and said Wuxia would still win. That night, Lanzan sneaked into the teacher's office to steal the chemistry tryout questions. but Mary entered the room with class copies, so he clamped her mouth shut before she could scream. He continued searching and even persuaded Mary to help him peek at next month's test questions. She refused and turned her face away, so Lanzan simply photographed the papers himself. However, when he tried giving the stolen sheet to Wuxia ripped it apart and said he needed no shortcuts. Unfortunately, because of Lanzan's antics, Mary was nearly blamed, and the CCTV confirmed both their presence. The teacher scolded Mary harshly for being such a good student, yet involved in mischief. Lanzan then admitted the truth that he alone had opened the drawer. Mary added that although Lanzan had looked at grade 2 papers, he hadn't seen anything from their class. As punishment, both were ordered to write the phrase self-reflection 1,000 times. Later in class, Lanzan apologized to Mary, but she confessed she didn't know how to write sentences of repentance because she had never committed any mistakes in her life. Akira and Lanzan ended up teaching her since both were seasoned experts at punishment lines. That night, Akira studied with Wuxia, but eventually fell asleep sitting upright on the bed. For mischief, Wuxia scribbled chemistry formulas on her cheeks and read them out loud while laughing. The next morning, Akira's mother and father prepared her favorite meal. Akira ran to Wuxia because it was his chemistry tryout day and he was burning with fever. She told him to take some medicine, but he worried it would make him drowsy, so he walked in without it and began the experiment anyway. The judges noticed immediately that he was unwell, yet after reviewing all submissions, they announced that Wuxia's experiment ranked first, making him the school's representative for the chemistry tryout. Sohua demanded to know how Wuxia managed a flawless experiment despite his condition. Wuxia explained calmly that he had practiced repeatedly every day, and a small mistake earlier was because his hands were trembling. After this, Akira went to Wuxia, and she asked why he wanted chemistry so badly. Wuxia admitted that chemistry carried the highest bonus points. She checked anxiously about his exam, and when he teased her by staying silent, she assumed she must have jinxed his luck by betting on Sohua. She worried Wuxia might be discouraged too. Wanting to ease her own guilt, she dragged him to the seaside shrine and offered apples to the sea god, praying that his exam would go well. When she placed her apple, Wuxia placed one too and told her not to worry because his exam had gone well. Akira lit up, proudly declaring that her prediction and Song the Fortune Teller had been correct. She remembered how she had bet on Sohua because since childhood, whoever she had bet always lost, much like when she lost all her chocolates in childhood while playing with Wuxia. Soon, the school officially announced that Wuxia had ranked first in the chemistry tryout, instantly making him the talk of the entire campus. After all, Sohua had been a national chemistry contest winner, so this result stunned everyone. Akira and Mary sat together calculating who now topped Mary's Mr. Perfect list, and after subtracting a few points from Sohua, Wuxia returned to the top spot again. After school, Akira and Wuxia rode the bus home when a man accidentally stepped on Wuxia's artificial leg. Akira panicked because traveling in crowded buses could damage it, so she decided she would learn double-seating cycling and take him to school safely. She tested the technique by placing her father behind her on a bicycle, only to crash so badly that even the bicycle looked traumatized. Worse, it happened to be her mother's favorite bicycle, which meant she had just broken both a vehicle and her peace of mind. They took it for repair, and Akira then begged Lanzan to teach her cycling after class. Later at the basketball court, when Lanzan began teaching her, Wuxia passed by and saw them together, and he immediately got jealous. Meanwhile, Akira quickly whispered to Lanzan that she was secretly learning this to surprise Wuxia because he had never been able to ride a bike due to his leg, and she didn't want anyone else to find out. Meanwhile, Wuxia approached Sohua separately to borrow his bicycle, explaining nervously that he wanted to try riding again. Sohua became suspicious that he liked Akira and was concerned about whether his leg would hold up. Still, he agreed to help him practice. Akira, believing Wuxia hadn't arrived yet, exercised with Lanzan to build leg strength. While across the field, Wuxia was wobbling on the bicycle like a baby deer trying its first steps. Slowly, he gained balance, and eventually both he and Akira ended up racing home, reaching Akira's house at the same time. Wuxia didn't like it, but still, when Akira's family saw them together, they invited everyone to dinner. After dinner, Wuxia asked Lanzan why Akira treated him so kindly. Lanzan admitted she was equally kind to him too, But Wuxia pressed further, asking specific questions about cycling, until Lanzan finally asked whether Wuxia himself wanted to learn. Wuxia admitted yes, and Lanzan said he couldn't teach him because Akira was already secretly training for him. Hearing this made Wuxia unexpectedly emotional. Apparently, learning to cycle with Akira meant far more to him than he had ever said aloud. Meanwhile, Wuxia's father had developed the terrible habit of gambling and buying lottery tickets, and now, whenever he lost everything, he demanded money from Wuxia and Li. When Wuxia used his mother's allowance to pay household bills, his father scolded him again, asking why his mother didn't send more. Wuxia was very angry, and he left the house quietly, admitting he missed his mother deeply. Ever since the divorce, he rarely saw her except through messages or occasional festivals. Seeing him troubled, Akira invited him home again, and spending time with her family eased his mood considerably. The next day, with practice, Wuxia soon learnt to ride the bicycle properly, and even bought a new bicycle for Akira. Now Akira too mastered double seating and proudly called Wuxia down to take him for a ride. The next morning she arrived outside his house ready to take him to school on her repaired bicycle. But Wuxia surprised her by arriving with a new bike. However, the new bicycle had no back seat, leaving her baffled about where Wuxia was supposed to sit. He then revealed his own new bicycle and casually rode ahead. Akira chased after him, shocked, demanding to know since when he had learnt to ride. Wuxia answered simply that he already knew. She asked what else he had kept hidden, and he replied, almost mischievously, that there were many things. A flashback explained everything, that after his accident, he had secretly practiced walking alone, and Akira had been the one encouraging him day after day, helping him regain strength. Meanwhile, Mary was still on her Mr. Perfect list and updated it by adding 2 points to Wuxia's score for learning cycling. Akira protested that learning to cycle deserved at least 4 points because it was incredibly difficult. Lanzan refused, so Akira slapped her hand over his mouth to silence him. Mary reasoned that if Wuxia's score reached 100, he would officially become Mr. Perfect, which would force Mary to confess her feelings, something she was nowhere near ready for. Listening to this, Lanzan immediately said, "Go ahead, add the points." Akira immediately flipped over in embarrassment, insisting cycling wasn't painful to learn, so 2 points were enough. Lanzan stood there wondering miserably why, after months of effort trying to impress Akira, she still only sees him as a friend. But Wuxia managed to earn all her admiration simply by learning to ride a bicycle. Lanzan then realized he would have to do something. After school, Akira headed to the comic shop where Lanzan was reading about a drum battle competition whose winner would receive limited edition basketball shoes. The moment he saw the announcement, Lanzan got an idea. Akira was waiting for Wuxia after school, but he told her to go home first because his class would end at 7. Akira reached the cycle stand, where Lanzan was already waiting, and casually invited her to ride home together. She agreed, and the two immediately turned it into a race. On the way, Lanzan reminded her of their plan to wander around that evening, and once she agreed, he led her to the mall, where he excitedly shared the details of the drum metal competition. Since Lanzan had helped her learn cycling, Akira declared confidently that she would win the shoes for him. Meanwhile, Gogo had already been practicing because he assumed Lanzan would choose him as his partner. When Akira told him that she and Lanzan had already teamed up, Gogo challenged Lanzan that whoever achieved the higher perfect score would play with him. A mini competition took place, and Akira won, forcing Gogo into the role of spectator. Lanzan, who was an expert at the game, began training Akira in perfect timing and drum patterns, and she learned eagerly, glowing with happiness. Their teamwork grew stronger, but Wuxia saw them together again and internally combusted like a jealous kettle left boiling too long. The next day in class, Akira and Lanzan skipped maths to practice drumming, prompting the mathematics teacher to throw them both out. Even outside the classroom, Akira kept practicing drum patterns, and Lanzan coached her patiently, completely unaware that Wuxia was watching them from the upper floor, his expression dark enough to turn day into eclipse. He marched straight to Lanzan later, insisting he stop distracting Akira because it would affect her studies. Lanzan defended himself by saying they were only practicing for the competition and that Akira had promised to help him win the shoes. When Wuxia declared she would not participate with him, Lanzan asked why Wuxia cared so much, unless, of course, Wuxia liked her. That suspicion rattled him, who now looked both confused and oddly hopeful. After school, Wuxia walked home with Akira, advising her to focus on studies and keep some distance from Lanzan, who didn't study himself and was now distracting her too. He told her to simply inform Lanzan she wouldn't participate. Akira argued that Lanzan was her friend and she had already promised to help him. She couldn't break her word. Wuxia asked if she was willing to compromise her academics for this, reminding her that she had already received punishment in maths that morning. Akira insisted she couldn't break a promise, so Wuxia cycled off in annoyance and told her not to follow him. That only irritated Akira more, and she immediately called Lanzan, bitterly listing every complaint about Wuxia, how controlling he was, how he interfered in everything, how he never let her make her own decisions. Lanzan added fuel to the fire by agreeing with exaggerated sincerity, saying Wuxia tried to control her too much. Akira declared she had told Wuxia that she would still help her friend win the shoes. But mid-rant, she suddenly realized Wuxia had actually been worrying for her good, wanting her studies not to suffer. She decided she would balance both, help Lanzan and study well, so that Wuxia wouldn't have to worry. Then, as if her emotional roller coaster hadn't been chaotic enough, she decided to celebrate with a spicy hot pot, sliding into full food therapy mode. Meanwhile, Wuxia was at the arcade practicing drum battles intensely. He had figured out the perfect score pattern because he had challenged Lanzan and couldn't let Akira break her promise. When night fell and he still hadn't returned home, Akira grew anxious and called Mary, who said he was probably studying. Akira called him cautiously, asking if he was angry. He replied that he wasn't. She became cheerful instantly. At that moment, Wuxia was actually scribbling out the perfect score drum pattern, having already studied Lanzan's rhythm and learned cycling purely because Akira wanted it. When Sowa asked why he was pushing himself so hard, he simply said Akira was his reason. The next evening, Akira and Lanzan continued practicing, but Akira couldn't match his speed yet. Suddenly, Wuxia arrived and replaced her, telling Lanzan he would play in Akira's place if he outscored him. Lanzan, confident from years of gaming, accepted, but Wuxia defeated him on the very first try by flawlessly executing the perfect rhythm. Akira was amazed, especially since Wuxia had never touched this game before. Lanzan had no choice but to make Wuxia his partner. The next day, Lanzan came to call Akira for practice, but she chose to stay with Wuxia and finish homework first. Wuxia was quietly delighted at being prioritized for once. Once homework ended, he called her for practice, and they went together. The first session was chaotic. Lanzan kept disturbing Wuxia by pulling out his earbuds, while Wuxia kept lowering the music because loud noise distracted him. Neither adjusted even a little. One wanted loud music, the other needed silence. Akira finally forced a compromise by handing the earbuds to Lanzan and turning the machine volume higher, which only made both boys play worse. She sighed and told them to stop for the day. After Lanzan left, Akira gave Wuxia her spare hands-free earphones and told him to practice using calm music so he could concentrate. Wuxia actually followed the advice, and the next morning he was on the terrace practicing with earphones on, looking so adorably focused that Akira nearly melted into the railing. They practiced even during school breaks, creating a perfect sync. Eventually, evening came, and they headed for the final battle. One by one, the weaker teams were eliminated until a strong team remained to compete against them, and the three of them exploded with excitement, especially Akira. The next day in class, Lanzan shamelessly flaunted his newly earned shoes right in front of Mary, who immediately told him not to get too proud because he hadn't won them alone. Akira and Wuxia had helped him, so he refused to increase Lanzan's points on the Mr. Perfect list. Later, while Wuxia was sitting in the canteen eating lunch, a girl named Defei boldly sat down in front of him, just as Akira and Mary were rushing to collect their food. Mary urged Akira to hurry or they'd lose a seat, but Akira calmly replied that Wuxia would surely save one for them. Across the table, Lanzan told Defei that his friends had arrived and asked her to move elsewhere. Defei pretended not to know who they were, and, after glancing at Wuxia, claimed she couldn't stand up because the sole of her shoe had come off. Wuxia said he would leave instead, but Daefei quickly grabbed his wuxiad to stop him, whining that her humiliation would be unbearable if he suddenly walked away. Before Wuxia could respond, Akira arrived and saw Daefei clutching Wuxia's hand and immediately felt a volcanic explosion of irritation. She slammed her plate down so loudly that even a nearby window considered resigning. Wuxia, confused, tried explaining that she wasn't really his friend, but Daefei snatched the moment and claimed Akira's seat for herself, telling Akira that since her shoe sole had torn, she deserved the seat more. Seeing Wuxia actually supporting Daefei made Akira even more jealous. She yelled at him, demanding how he could let someone else sit in her place, while Wuxia insisted she didn't need to shout and that she could just take the seat next to him. Daefei chimed in sweetly that Wuxia had helped her, and Akira stormed off in fury. Later, Akira and Mary were on restroom duty, but Akira just kept pacing and ranting. How dare Daefei sit in her spot? How sweetly Wuxia had said her name. How shamelessly the girl had held his hand. Mary teased that it didn't look like Wuxia liked Akira. If anything, it looked like Akira was the one who liked him. Akira immediately denied it, reminding Mary that Wuxia held the top rank on her Mr. Perfect list. Mary ignored her deflection and instead calculated their intimacy index, asking if Akira had ever held Wuxia's wuxiad. Akira admitted they had locked fingers many times while arm wrestling as kids, but Mary said that didn't count. Instead, she proposed a test. If Akira could look into Wuxia's eyes for 10 seconds straight without looking away, she didn't like him, but if she failed, she definitely liked him. Akira scoffed, saying it sounded easy, but her expression looked like someone who had just been sentenced to advanced algebra. After school, it was raining heavily. Akira's umbrella had broken, so Wuxia brought her along under his. Akira kept getting soaked from the side because of her height, so she grabbed the umbrella herself. But then Wuxia, seeing she was still drenched, gently pulled her close so the umbrella covered both of them. There was a brief moment where even the raindrops seemed to applaud. On the bus, Wuxia fell asleep and his head landed softly on Akira's shoulder. When she turned to look at him, he woke up and their eyes met. Akira immediately began the 10-second test, but her heart was thudding so loudly that she lasted only 3 seconds before darting her gaze away. At home, she tried again while watching TV, 4 seconds this time, and later even stared at Wuxia's photo, but failed again, finally whispering anxiously to herself that she might actually like him. Feeling both terrified and excited, she took some of her mother's makeup to school the next day. Mary helped her apply it, though the results were so chaotic that even Mary burst out laughing. Mary clipped a hairpin onto Akira's hair, accidentally making her look even cuter. Mary asked her about her eye contact test, but Akira hid the truth. But when Lanzan joined them, he overheard them talking about eye contact and immediately demanded details. He even bought snacks trying to coax out the confession. Mary then asked Lanzan if he had ever held hands with a girl. He remembered high-fiving Akira, and Mary declared that it counted. Then she asked if he had ever hugged anyone. He thought of the time after the drum battle when Akira had grabbed both their arms and jumped in excitement, and said yes. Mary dramatically concluded that he must like the girl in question, which made Lanzan panic and run away like a startled squirrel. Later that day, Akira with the same hair clip walked toward Wuxia and asked if she looked different. Wuxia said no, which offended her deeply, and she walked off. The next morning, she tried lipstick too, and overheard students saying one girl's uniform looked beautiful, so she secretly adjusted her styling again. The following morning, she stepped out with perfectly arranged hair and the clip in place, and Wuxia admitted she looked a little different. Akira beamed with pride, though she tried to hide it. On the way to school, Lanzan joined them and teased that she looked great because of his makeup advice. Wuxia didn't like this and ran away to school, where he asked Sowa that one of his friends had recently started paying more attention to her appearance. Sowa replied that it's because she might have a crush on someone, probably on a boy from her class. Hearing this, Wuxia's face fell so fast it was almost poetic. His suspicions grew when Wuxian discovered that Akira had altered her school uniform. He scolded harshly for shortening it since customization was strictly forbidden, and she could even receive punishment for it. Though furious at first, Akira went home and realized the uniform truly had become shorter than acceptable. Meanwhile, Wuxia had gone out to buy a hair clip for her, and there he unexpectedly encountered the same girl from the canteen but ignored her completely before leaving. The next morning, Akira discovered her jacket had been washed by her mother, leaving her no choice but to wear her adjusted uniform. Unfortunately, uniform inspection was happening right at the school gate, and students with modified uniforms were being sent home or having their parents called. Terrified, Akira tried to slip through unnoticed, but Wuxia spotted her and quietly handed her his own jacket before walking off. She gratefully put it on and later found a hair clip tucked inside the pocket clearly meant for her, so she wore it. After the inspection, she returned the jacket to Wuxia, and when he asked casually about the hair clip, she lied that she had bought it herself. Wuxia simply told her it suited her, and Akira turned pink again. Later, while result sheets were being given out, she kept thinking about Wuxia. When Lanzan approached to talk, she quickly returned his hair clip. With Wuxia's birthday approaching, Akira went shopping for a present, and Mary accompanied her. They chose a heart-shaped card, and Akira asked Mary to write a message on it that she could later place on Wuxia's desk. Still confused about what gift to buy, Akira suddenly noticed a shirt she liked but did not know Wuxia's exact size. Determined, she dragged Mary to Wuxia's seat under the excuse of borrowing notes, then began measuring his shirt under the guise of checking fabric quality. They somehow succeeded in getting Wuxia's shirt measurement. Akira even pretended to slip so she could hold onto his waist and gauge his body size. The very next day, their school trip dates were announced. Akira asked Wuxia if he would go, but he said he could not because he needed to prepare for his upcoming competition. She excitedly mentioned celebrating his birthday on the trip, but he refused again, so Akira declared she would skip the trip too. Her friends, however, dragged her along anyway. Still, during the trip, the teacher organized a paired race where boys and girls had one leg tied together. Lanzan was paired with Akira, but Akira slipped away midway because she needed to run back to school and deliver Wuxia's cake. After mistaking the situation, Lanzan angrily freed himself and tried to chase her, but Mary stopped him. Still stubborn, he later rushed toward the school on his own. Akira meanwhile reached Wuxia's classroom, but spotted a teacher approaching, forcing her to drag Wuxia into the biology storage room to hide. Inside the cramped room, they ended up pressed closely together, and their eyes met again. But this time, Wuxia looked away first, flustered. But their escape failed. Because of Lanzan's noisy arrival, all three were caught. The teachers scolded Akira and Wuxia for returning from the trip without permission. But when Akira explained it was Wuxia's birthday, the teachers softened and allowed the class to celebrate by cutting the cake. It turned into a lively mini-party, and Wuxia was unexpectedly delighted. Later at home, Wuxia's father texted him a birthday wish, while Akira went to his room carrying her gift. She handed him the shirt and shyly extended the heart-shaped wishing card. When she left, Wuxia's father visited him again and told him that once he turned 18 the following year, he would be able to leave his father's house and live with his mother instead, since staying with his father was damaging his life. This news made Wuxia genuinely happy. That night, Wuxia opened Akira's card where she had wished that all of Wuxia's dreams would come true. The next day in class, the teacher announced the New Year's celebration event and requested performers. Most classes had already prepared elaborate acts, but Wuxia's class, being made of studious students, was completely uninterested. The teacher insisted that one student must host the event, and since no one volunteered, the hosting responsibility would be decided between Wuxia and Sowa through voting. Meanwhile, Akira, Mary, and Gogo were preparing their own performance. Mary, who was an excellent dancer, suggested a unique Western basketball-themed routine that matched the festive concept, and everyone began practicing enthusiastically. Back in Wuxia and Sowa's class, the teacher prepared the voting process. Akira later told Wuxia about their dance performance when suddenly shocking news emerged that Dee would also be hosting the New Year celebration, meaning whichever boy, Wuxia or Sohua, won the vote would have to co-host with her. Akira instantly grew irritated because she knew most students would vote for Wuxia. Determined to prevent Wuxia from hosting alongside Dee, she began convincing everyone to vote for Sohua. Panicked, she even slipped fake ballots into the voting box, but the teacher caught her. Ironically, her plan backfired, and Wuxia was declared the host. Humiliated but unable to undo it, Akira threw herself into dance practice. However, during rehearsals, her group's act unexpectedly failed, and although they had planned an impressive performance with memorable choreography, the outcome left her so anxious that she started doubting everything. She ended practice early and headed home, only to discover Wuxia walking home with Dee, holding her umbrella close to adjust her coat collar while speaking to her softly. Akira saw them together. Her face fell instantly, and when she realized how close they were standing, anger surged through her. Without a word, she turned around and walked straight home in frustration. The next morning, Akira walked to school alone, still annoyed, and vented the entire situation to Mary, who immediately understood that Akira was both jealous and flustered because Dee kept getting close to Wuxia, while Akira herself kept embarrassing herself in front of him. She then headed to the practice room at the scheduled time and found Wuxia and Dee rehearsing together yet again. She got irritated so much that she marched straight to their table and slammed the speaker down, insisting that this time slot belonged to her group as well. Naturally, an argument sparked between her and Dee until Gogo, acting like the self-appointed peace ambassador of the universe, suggested they split the room and rehearse separately. But Akira, still burning with jealousy though pretending she wasn't, struggled to focus, especially when Wuxian started teaching Dee certain moves. Meanwhile, Lanzan also teaches a move to Akira, something Wuxia clearly disliked, and he walks out. Later, at the convenience store, Akira met Dee again, who boldly lied that she and Wuxia had picked that hair clip together, which made Akira furious because she realized Dee had gone to Wuxia's class just to get attention. But Dee was trying everything to get Wuxia's attention, so she went to the cafeteria and deliberately sat alone with Wuxia, which caught everyone's attention, but Wuxia ignored her. Meanwhile, the four performers continued their rehearsals with renewed enthusiasm until Gogo got slightly injured. The teacher advised him not to perform, but he stubbornly insisted he would continue. Akira kept practicing even at home. That evening, Wuxia visited to return something and, seeing she was angry, calmly explained that nobody had chosen the hair clip except him. He had bought it personally for her, which instantly sorted out their misunderstanding. Akira even made him a matching bow tie. For days, everyone practiced intensely, and for the first time in her life, Akira worked so hard for something that even her mother suspected she had been replaced by an alien. Soon, New Year's Day arrived and the celebration began. Dee gave a necktie to Wuxia to wear, but he ignored it because he was already wearing the necktie that Akira gave to her. Now both Wuxia and Dee were hosting the show. Many performances went well, but as the final acts approached, things backstage were falling apart. One performance was canceled, and then a teacher suggested canceling the performance. Dee intentionally canceled Akira's class performance because she did not like it at all. Wuxia, who had witnessed her hard work, found this unacceptable. Just as the announcement for the event's closing was being made, Wuxia ran onto the stage and declared that Akira's class still had a final act that everyone should see, promising it would be unforgettable. The audience settled back into their seats. Excited, Akira and her friends rushed on stage and performed brilliantly. The crowd loved it, and it became the best performance of the night. Even Akira's father was glowing with pride. After thunderous applause, the event concluded. Backstage, Dee apologized to Akira for lying about the hair clip. She admitted she had felt insecure because Wuxia treated Akira in a special way, and she confessed she liked him and she had never expected Wuxia to like her back. Dee walked away. Outside, the cold was sharp, so Wuxia brought Akira a scarf. He also mentioned gently that he knew Dee liked him, but he did not reciprocate. That night, Akira created a no-love agreement on paper, stating that both she and Wuxia would not fall in love with anyone during their school years, and if someone did, Akira would decide the punishment. They signed it with dramatic seriousness, as if drafting the constitution of their country. A flashback appeared of their childhood when Akira's mother had promised her a toy and forgotten. Akira was heartbroken, but Wuxia crafted a little potato doll for her, promising that, unlike adults, he would always keep his promises, and she promised the same in return. The next day, a girl handed Wuxia a letter which he gave to Sohwa. Meanwhile, Akira also got one letter and hurried away. For a moment, Akira thought it was a love letter and nearly fainted in excitement. But when she showed it to Wuxia, It turned out to be a request from a student who admired Akira's dancing and wanted lessons. Lanzan saw them together, and he did not like it at all. So the next day, he confronted Wuxia and said that since he was not Akira's real brother, he had no right to control her. Wuxia ignored him completely. Later, Akira and Wuxia were sitting outside together when she felt cold, so she tucked her hand inside his coat sleeves. At that moment, Lanzan appeared again and asked why she always sat with her brother. Hearing this, Wuxia immediately walked away. Akira did not like this and complained to Mary that Wuxia did not like calling him her brother because he disliked anyone implying he had a sister with low marks. Hearing this, Mary laughed and whispered that maybe he did like her. Thinking about their shared moments, Akira suddenly smiled to herself. After class, Mary invited her to the comic store, but she refused, saying she had homework. That evening, Wuxia and Akira ate ice cream together. Akira couldn't finish hers, so Wuxia casually finished it for her. Then they visited the comic store, where Akira happily read her favorite series until it grew dark. She panicked that her mother would be worried, but Wuxia reassured her that he had already called home and informed them she was with him, which made her melt instantly. Feeling cold, she slid her hand back into his sleeve. The next day, Lanzan visited the comic store and learned Akira and Wuxia had been there together. He then noticed a romance book Akira had been browsing earlier.